This week in gaming, Riot talks about Arcane failing to bring players into League of Legends, EA turns down a pitch for a Dead Space 4, Zenless Zone Zero reverts an update that would stop players from looking at their characters' quote-unquote assets, and more. So let's talk about all of that in this week's installment of TWIG. Starting off with Bloomberg, who recently reported that Arcane was a financial miss for Riot Games, costing them $250 million to produce and market, but failing to generate enough revenue for the company. With Netflix and Tencent each paying $3 million per episode, which adds up to around $108 million for Riot, being under half of what they spent to actually create the show. This report from Bloomberg made fans of Arcane worried that the spin-off shows, which had already been teased and kind of talked about publicly by Riot Games, would potentially get cancelled due to Arcane not bringing in enough players for League of Legends or not making Riot enough money. However, the co-founder at Riot, being Mark Morrill, has actually responded to this report in a pretty positive way, stating the following: "People who look at the world through a short-term, transactional, cynical lens really struggle to understand Riot Games. This has been true with various people trying to claim that high-quality free games won't work, that esports will never work, that our music was insane, and they're now saying that Arcane wasn't as awesome and worth it as we believed it was. These people think we make things like Arcane to sell skins, when in reality, we sell skins to make things like Arcane. Riot is a mission-driven company where rioters are constantly striving to make it better to be a player. That is why we have successfully done that over and over and over again across multiple games and now multiple businesses/mediums, being games, sports, music, and animation. Do we get everything right? Nope, but we are not focused on the short-term extraction of profits. We are focused on delivering exceptional value to our audience over the long term, again and again and again." To be clear, Arcane crushed for players, and so it crushed for us. Overall, it seems that the message from Riot Games is pretty clear, that even if a product is a financial miss for them, as long as it crushed it for their players and provided a great value for their players, they see it as a success at the end of the day. And now there has been some animosity towards Riot Games recently, due to Riot laying off 11% of its staff earlier this year, only to later on rent out the entirety of Universal Studios for the Riot employees to have fun with an end-of-year celebration, and that has made some people think, oh, why'd they lay off these people and then rent out the entirety of a whole entire, studio-type theme park place, right? So if you believe the statement from the co-founder or not, that's completely up to you, but it does appear that at least at the one part of the spectrum, the upcoming spin-off shows for Arcane should still be happening and should be getting developed behind the scenes. Next up, it appears that 3 developers behind Dead Space made a pitch to EA for a potential 4th installment to the Dead Space franchise, only for the pitch to be turned down. This disappointed the developers who actually pitched the game, stating that the gaming industry is in a weird place right now and people are hesitant to take chances on things, but to take it with a grain of salt because who knows, maybe one day a Dead Space 4 game could be made. Now, this denial by EA isn't surprising, to be completely honest, as recently some news has started to float around online that the developers behind Apex Legends have been unable to implement any of the cool ideas that they've pitched and wanted to do for the game because the higher-ups at Respawn and EA practically have been refusing to let them work on stuff, causing the game to mainly just get new cosmetics and battle passes recently instead of anything special like new limited time game modes. This is some people speculating online that all these recent hesitations from EA is because they could be shutting down, considering that the company has been shutting down servers for a lot of their older games, including more games going forwards in 2025 such as The Simpsons Tapped Out and Rory McIlroy's game called PGA Tour. Personally, I don't believe that EA will be shutting down anytime soon, but I do believe that they're starting to take a step back from supporting older titles and instead trying to find the most cautious way to play their cards in 2025, which might be for the best because it seems like both Ubisoft and EA have had a rough couple of game launches this year alone. And then on the exact opposite side of the spectrum, it seems like Miite, the creators behind Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, and more, is reverting a Horny Gel update for Zenless Zone Zero. You heard me right there, the Horny Gel update. On December 17th, it was reported that if you tried to angle your camera downwards to look at your character's butt, or upwards depending on how the camera angle actually works or whatever, it would make your character no longer slightly fade out and be transparent, but instead you would make your character completely invisible, which would at one end allow UI to see the scenery of whatever place you're looking at a lot nicer, but on the other end, if you're someone who kept angling your camera downwards to look at the butt of your character, it would be a downside for you because you would be unable to actually see that anymore. Now, on Reddit, players at Zenless stated that Hoyoverse specifically added extra jiggle physics to characters' thighs and butts, and then decided to make a specific update that actually out of the blue would prevent you from seeing the extra detail that they put into each character, and they were wondering why this would even exist if you're going to go through the effort to not just do, the generic jiggle physics that you see in certain places, but to also put them on things like thighs. Now, after the whole entire backlash from social media and everyone else regarding Zenless Zone Zero, MiHoYo made a statement claiming that the updates fixed deleting your character from view and trying to look at butts was actually a bug, and that it was fixed with an update, giving players 300 polychrome currency, which is their gacha gambling currency, as an apology gift. And honestly, I wasn't even going to talk about this topic at first when they first implemented the patch, but seeing them go back on the patch so quickly due to Zenless players wanting to look at some booty was so funny to me that I thought I would just go ahead and share it as a topic for today. Not all reversions are good, however, as Warner Brothers have recently reverted the ability to purchase some of the Cartoon Network games that they have released before. They did this 2 days before Christmas Day, which was a big bummer for anyone out there who might have wanted to pick up some games for their kids who might have watched some Cartoon Network shows in the past, or if they just wanted to pick up some games for themselves when they were on sale during the whole entire Christmas end-of-year winter sale. Now, these games were stuff such as OKKO, Let's Play Heroes, Samurai Jack, Battle Through Time, which is technically an Adult Swim game, but Adult Swim is like a division or a subdivision of Cartoon Network anyway, so it kind of makes sense. Steven Universe Save the Light, Steven Universe Unleash the Light, and 2 different Adventure Time games. Now, nobody's really too sure why these games got delisted, with the developers behind the Steven Universe games even stating online that they don't know the reason at all, but it does feel like Cartoon Network is becoming a thing of the past, with the official Cartoon Network website being gone, now redirecting players to the Max website, and us seeing tons of stuff in the past regarding Adult Swim removing games or, removing their affiliation with certain games. Like there was this Duck game or whatever before that originally got delisted, and then the developers managed to get the rights to that game back or whatever and keep it up on the store. So it does feel like Cartoon Network and even Adult Swim is just going to be something that we don't really think about anymore going forwards, and who knows what's going to happen as more and more games get delisted in the future. But it does suck seeing actual titles that have a real life physical media attached to it, like something like Adventure Time games, being delisted from being available for purchase. But if you are looking for a new game to play, however, I have you covered, because this week for Ricky's Weekly Twig game, we have to talk about Miite, a $15 indie game on Steam that has a Doki Doki Literature Club twist to it, where it starts off as a wholesome dating simulator in some sort of the sense where you actually are able to, interact with this other character that is supposed to be your virtual girlfriend, but it has slight twists towards it that turn it into more of a psychological horror game. Now, this game can be completed in a few hours, with it taking me around 8 hours total in order to not only complete the game with all 3 of the endings, but also grab every achievement there is to grab. Now, if I had to state one issue with this game so you could know both the pluses and the downsides of it, one issue is that you may encounter different chunks of typos in the English version of the game. I can't really say how much it actually has these different typos in other languages, but I can talk about the English one, and while it does have a little bit of slight annoyances to me at times, it doesn't take away from the game's atmosphere at all, and in most cases, these could just be written off as intentional choices due to how the game's actually being developed and due to that psychological horror aspect of it. Now, there have already been some patches that have added new features like a photo mode into the game and fixed some of these typos, because this is a game that doesn't come from America. It's more of like a Russian-Chinese game from what I've heard online. I think it's Russian, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But it's completely understandable why it would have some of these typos in different places. And to be completely honest, I would 100% prefer small typos here and there over what we see with a lot of games now, where they tend to be unfinished and patched with post-launch updates. And here with Miite, it feels like the post-launch updates are going to actually be expanding the game with new features instead of just being like, oops, we fixed the typo, lol, goodbye, we raised the price by $5 or something like that. There's already different modes being planned for the future, and you can actually unlock one of these modes right now that will actually pop up saying, hey, look at you being a completionist. You've unlocked the ability to go into a mode that will be adding later down down the line as a completely free update. So it is nice to see that this will be getting some more updates and patches post-launch, but it is something that I thought I would recommend to you guys looking for a short game that you could complete in a single sitting, assuming you have around 8 hours to spare if you want to get every single achievement as well. Now for this final topic of the week, you might have heard about it before because this has happened once before and it's actually happened once before that, and you know what, I think the best way of saying it is that basically every single year this happens, except it happens in a different way with a different piece of media actually being published. I won't be showing any footage or images of what this situation is because of the fact that, you know, I don't think I should be allowed to in the first place, but the final topic relates to the self-proclaimed realistic military vehicle combat game known as War Thunder. This is a game where you're able to actually fight other players while driving tanks or flying different aircrafts around the game, and they've recently added the Eurofighter Typhoon to their game. Now you might not think much about it at first if you're not someone who has heard about this situation before, and you might just be thinking, oh cool, a new aircraft to use, I wonder what the stats are. And if you don't play War Thunder, you're probably just like, oh, they added an aircraft to it. Okay, what's the controversial part about this? But War Thunder players are a different beast, trust me. An argument broke out on the game's forums regarding the scanning capabilities of the Captor radar system that this actual Typhoon fighter craft, whatever else, has, and it caused someone to actually post a restricted document on the Typhoon as a way to prove their point and be like, hey look, no, I'm right, I know how this works. Now this caused the actual player to get banned and the document to be removed from the forum site, but it's wild to think that this has happened so often on the War Thunder forums that a community manager for the forums had to state multiple times the following. I would take this as an opportunity to remind everyone again, please do not under any circumstances try to post, share any sources unless you are 100% certain they are all legally declassified and publicly safe for use. We will never handle or use them. All this does is actively harm any possible future changes being possible by trying to use them. Do not do it. No good will ever come from it for you or the vehicle you are trying to post for. Other than the statement having to be made multiple times to not actually share classified documentation, I think the wild part is that this is the 2nd December in a row, right around Christmas time, where War Thunder has had a forum argument resulting in leaked documents being shared online. Now, for it being the end of the year, we've somehow managed to continue finding gaming news to talk about with you guys, so thanks for enjoying these first few episodes of TWIG, and I'll catch you guys with the next installment in 2025, so until we meet again next year, Happy New Year's, and here's to a great future.